The Rebbe, in my opinion, made the Rebbe into a Rebbetzin after she passed away. Which means that if you felt entitled to interpret the Rebbe's motivation, it would go something like this. The Rebbe would have been very happy if the Rebbetzin acted more like a Rebbetzin, but she didn't. And when the Rebbetzin passed away, the Rebbe did everything in his power to make her into a Rebbetzin. I'm very convinced of that from many different proofs. And this Sicha is certainly one of those. The first proof is the story with the pictures. It's one of those incredible little stories. They, right after the Rebbetzin passed away, for Shloshim, Merkez printed a book, a little pamphlet called Imenu Hamalka, which had pictures of the Rebbetzin in it. From what I understand, in the original printing, the pictures were colored, and then the later pictures, the Rebbe had them change it to black and white. So Rabbi Gavriel Zinner, who's very, very close to the Rebbe, he's a Hungarian Jew, a Papa Chassid, that they're, of course, incredibly careful about tznius, saw a Lubavitcher publication with pictures of a woman, so he wrote the Rebbe a letter. In the letter, he apologizes. He had great derech. He was the Rebbe, so he's a chassid. But he wrote to the Rebbe that in his opinion, they should not have printed a picture with a picture of a woman, even a woman who had passed away, and even a woman who most of the chassidim didn't know, because of the Yanim of Tznius. And he brought a whole bunch of rayas from Shulchan Aruch about a Yanim of Tznius. And the Rebbe did something incredibly Rebbesk, in character of the Rebbe. There's a picture of that letter, and the Rebbe is fixing it. The Rebbe takes his very words, doctors them, moves words from here to there, adds notes, and draws the exact opposite conclusion. That based on all of his proof from Shulchan Aruch, it's perfectly fine to have printed the pictures. And then the Rebbe writes in the bottom, that perhaps the reason people are printing her pictures is because if they will not print her pictures, it will diminish in the idea of v'hachai yiten eliboy. In other words, that the Rebbe at least tolerated the publicizing of the Rebbe's picture. This is a woman who I spent my whole life in Crown Heights. If I had seen her on the street, I would not have known who she was. And the vast majority of Lubavitcher men and women would not have recognized the Rebbetzin in my generation, because that's how private she was. There was no such thing in the picture of the Rebbetzin. Period. Zalman Jaffe writes the story, I've told it to you before, that he was very close to the Rebbetzin. And he treated her like a person, treated her like a human being. For good and for bad. In other words, on the one hand, we didn't treat her like a person. We treated her like an angel, which is weird, funny, What? But he respected her privacy. But at the same time, he had a very open relationship with her. He and his wife would come and sit and talk to the Rebbe for hours. And they would sit and laugh and talk. And he would make fun of his children and grandchildren who would come into the Rebbe and then tremble in front of her. And they would be in the best behavior. And he writes that as soon as his family, who were so afraid of her, would leave, they would have normal conversations. But he said to the Rebbe once, he says, you have so many pictures of my children. Because every time the new baby was born, they sent her pictures and flowers. I want a picture of you. So the Rebbe said to him, on your next visit. So on his next visit, he brought the camera, and they spent a lot of time together, and at the end of the visit, he said to the Rebbe, okay, a deal's a deal, I want to take a picture of you. And the Rebbe posed for him. And he took out a camera, and he looked through the viewfinder, and he saw that the Rebbe was very, very not happy. She had agreed to be photographed, but it was very obvious that she didn't want to be photographed. So he didn't take the picture. And he never asked again. And that's a moidendike sensitivity on his part. This is the kind of a lady that Rebbetzin was. Okay? As soon as Rebbetzin passes away, the pictures are in the newspaper. Gershon Ber Jacobson printed pictures of the Rebbetzin during the week of Shiva. Okay? And a lot of people were not happy about it. They felt that it was rude. Here's a woman who spent her whole life hiding, and then they printed the pictures in the newspaper. When he went by the Rebbe by Dallas, the Rebbe said, thank you for the pictures. Now you explain how you want.
How did they have pictures of her?
There were people who knew her.
So why would they take pictures?
They didn't take pictures. These are pictures from the Rebbetzins youth. These are not pictures from when the Rebbetzin was Rebbetzin. There's pictures when the Rebbetzin was a girl or a young woman. The pictures that he printed were from the Rebbetzin before the Rebbe was Rebbe. Young pictures, not older pictures.
Was she married?
In some of them, there was, I don't remember. You know how long ago it is?
Where she's wearing a hat, and the one that everyone has.
That was, of course, when she was married, yeah. That was in 1949. That's Tufshin Tess. But whatever it is. But the point is, the Rebbe thanked her for the pictures. Now, you can decide that the Rebbe had a different kavanah. This is a newspaper, it's for the world. In other words, how did the Rebbe feel about Lubavitchers having her pictures on their wall, for example? But the reality is that this is what the Rebbe wrote to Gavril Tziner, who was a Hungarian Jew. He says that the reason people are printing her pictures is it should add into the V'achai Yitin Alib. This is a woman who spent her whole life hiding from Hasidim. She passes away, and the Rebbe is saying having her pictures increases the V'achai Yitin Alib. To me, and again, the good news is, and the bad news is, I'm not an authority. So I can tell you what I think, and then you'll go talk to your parents and decide if I'm good or not good. But this is my opinion. The Rebbe made the Rebbetzin into a Rebbetzin after she passed away. And this is a clear example. This was 33 days after she passed away. Her first birthday. And the Rebbe spoke a Sicha. Now let me just tell you a little interesting detail. That the Rebbetzin passed away Tuesday night, late. So the Levi was Wednesday. So it took a while for people to find out and to come to Menachem Lovell. I mean people from outside of Crown Heights. One of the first people to visit the Rebbe, not the Lubavitcher, was the Stoliner Rebbe. Was a young man at the time. He came Thursday night. In other words, the second day of Shiva. The first day of Shiva was Wednesday, came Thursday night. People started coming Friday, Sunday, every day it became more and more. He came Thursday night. And he spent 3 minutes with the Rebbe. That whole exchange is very interesting to me. He sat there for 3 minutes, he asked the Rebbe 2 questions, he made the Rebbe cry and he walked out. Mamish, that's exactly what happened. He asked the Rebbe how old she was. And the Rebbe said, by Yidden zählt man nicht, Jews don't count. But the Rebbe said, dem Chav Heyader, weil bei ihr geworden 87 Jahre. This Chav Heyader, which was then 33 days hence, she would have turned 87. And then he asked the Rebbe, 87. Then he asked the Rebbe, the Rebbe was a year older than the Rebbe. From was is sie weg? What did she pass away from? And the Rebbe Poshet broke down. And the Rebbe said, "Von a inyam pnimi." Jeder histalkos is an inyam pnimi. From something spiritual. A histalkos. By a tzaddik, you don't say nifta, you say histalkos. Jeder histalkos. That's how the Rebbe felt about the Rebbe. Jeder histalkos is an inyam pnimi. Every histalkos. When he walked out, people were very upset at him. He shows up, made the Rebbe cry. The Rebbe Poshet broke down. So he said, "This is the minhag," and he left. Finished. I found later that the Rebbe used to ask the same 2 questions. Whenever the Rebbe went to be Menachem Lovell, Gedei Yisrael, Chassidish Rebbe, he would ask the same 2 questions. How old the person was and what they passed away from. Apparently there was an inyan in this. I saw a number of different Nichem Avel, the Rebbe asked those 2 questions. He came, he did his thing, and he left. So 33 days later, on the Rebbe's birthday, the Rebbe was at home. And you know how it is, where were you standing? You know, the Rebbe was in his house. So the result of it was that I could remember every Sicha that I heard during that period because of where I was standing. I remember the Sicha the Rebbe said on Shloshim, Chaf Aleph, I remember where I stood when I heard these various different Sichas. Because we just walked around 770. It was 5 after 11 in the morning. Okay, the Rebbe davened for the Yomid. It was a Monday, so it was a long davening. Then we went upstairs, took off his towels and film, came back downstairs and started to talk. I mean, somebody told me they lived across the street. There was almost nobody there. So here I was. I had just finished davening Shachar. I was in Yeshiva Bacher. It was 5 after 11. I was in a shirt, no hat, no jacket. I was probably holding a cup of coffee. I remember exactly where I was standing, going to my seat to stand and learn. All of a sudden, the Rebbe talking. In other words, usually if the Rebbe spoke a Sicha, it was after Mincha or after Ma'ariv. Why? Because after Mincha, the Rebbe would just turn around and start to speak. After Shachar, the Rebbe would take off his towels and film. The Rebbe wasn't going to speak a Sicha in film. Not that the Rebbe didn't talk in film, but I can't imagine the Rebbe speaking a Sicha in film. He went upstairs, took off his film, came back down, and started to speak. And he spoke the Sicha. As you could see, the Sicha is not very long. And in this Sicha, the Rebbe essentially proposes that we should make a shturim out of birthdays. And the Rebbe did this on the very first birthday after the Rebbe since his talmud. So what I did was I prepared this Sicha and then a much longer Sicha. Because what happened was the Rebbe spoke about birthdays and the Rebbe's birthday. It was very short, it was very vague. Achan Shal Pesach, another month later, the Rebbe spoke a very long Sicha. And in this longer Sicha, the Rebbe explained what we call Mivtzayei Moledes, the shturim of making a birthday. And when you learn these two Sichas, there are two critical additions that the Rebbe adds. Number one, that you should make a fabrengen. And number two, men, women, and children. Like the Rebbe used to tell people by dollars in those days. When you went by the Rebbe for dollars, he told him it's your birthday, we'd give you $1. And depending on how old you were and how holy you were, the Rebbe told you make a fabrengen or make a party. As simple as that. The Rebbe told make a party. And on the last page of this stack, page 7, you have the Minhagei Moledes. I printed it here because a lot of times people don't know where to find it. It's not printed after the Sicha of Chav Hey Yavad, it's printed after the Sicha of Achon Shal Pesach. It's in Sefer HaSichas Toshmam Ches Chelik Beis. But we don't have enough time. So let's at least learn the first Sicha. Okay, and the rest you'll enjoy on your own. In conjunction with the recent discussions about the idea of living taking to heart. Now what does V'achayit Nalibim mean? It's a pasuk. And the pasuk means that when somebody dies, all those left alive who know about the death of that person have to take to heart. In other words, the simple lesson is death reminds us of our mortality, of our limitations. And it's not so comfortable to deal with death. And it's a form of making us be more conscientious, more responsible for our time, more responsible for our lives, because, as the expression goes, so far, nobody has figured out how to live forever. Everybody dies. So you have to value life. That's V'achayit Nalibim. Okay? The Rambam writes that although death and tragedy frequently happen, b'derech mikre, happen in what looks like a coincidental way, a chance, a random event, a person who does not take note of a mikre, ra, of a negative event, I think the Lashon is hareizu miderech achzorius. It's a symptom of a cruelty, of an insensitivity. When something bad happens, even if it's totally random. Okay? So of course, the little kids sit on the floor and kick their feet and say, why did Hashem do it? I'm angry at Eibshter. The Rambam doesn't address those little kids, he leaves that for the psychologists. But a mature person, the Rambam says, listen, this happened. We don't know why. So you can't explain the death, but you must learn a lesson. You must be Mesated in children and learn a lesson. And all year after the Rebbe passed away, that was the theme of the entire year. You have to learn something from this event. As painful as it is, and as perhaps you may feel very far away from it, the living have to take to heart. Or to say it in different words, the Rebbe, of course, had his favorite quotes, right? What's the Rebbe's favorite quote? I guess that's impossible to answer, right? We want Mashiach now. What's the Rebbe's favorite quote? When I grew up, my mashpiyim used to say the Rebbe's favorite quote was Hamaise hu ha'ikr. Or Torah milashon hara. Everything you learn is a lesson in life. V'achayit Nalibim is a combination of Hamaise hu ha'ikr and Torah milashon hara. Learn a practical lesson from the passing of the Rebbe. Ukibakol davar. And about each event we have to learn something from. Something so important. Regarding action, which is the main thing. And therefore, it's appropriate that we utilize the birthday. Notice the Rebbe doesn't say whose. The birthday, the Rebbetzon's birthday. Shemazla goyve, that the mazla of the Rebbetzon is dominant. That through this, Yitosef, Be'inyan Yadus, it should add in the Yadam of Yiddishkeit, Torah, U'mitzvah. Now, girls, the story is that in the Jewish tradition, birthdays were never a big deal. Yartzites were. In fact, the average person growing up yesteryear had no idea how old they were. They didn't know their birthday, didn't know how old they were, because it didn't matter. When a person dies, that means the person has finished his life, so the day a person passes away is the Sachakol, it's the summary of their lives, it's a big deal. Person is born, we don't know what's going to be of them. In fact, in the Jewish tradition, and when the Rebbe came out with this campaign, of course, Lubavitch always has the regular naysayers who came out and said, the only place it says Yom Huledes in the Torah, it says Espare. Yom Huledes Espare. Pare celebrates his birthday, but Yidden don't celebrate birthdays. So the Rebbe said, that's a very interesting observation, but it's a Gemara Yerushalmi. In footnote 3, the Yerushalmi says, and the Rebbe said you can send the Yerushalmi an email, but I think they say that the mailbox is full, he's not answering any mail. The Yerushalmi says on the birthday of a Yid, the mazel is dominant. Now, since when the Jews have mazel? I thought Jews didn't have a mazel. So I'm just going to give you a source if you're interested in reading up on it. The Rebbe spoke about birthdays very comprehensively. Zayin Adar Tufshin Nun Beis. In other words, 2 weeks before the stroke. 20 days before the stroke, exactly. Zayin Adar is Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday. The Rebbe spoke a whole Sicha about Moshe Rabbeinu. That Moshe Rabbeinu was the Nasi of the first generation, so he's the head of that generation, and he's therefore the Nasi of all the later Nasiim. They've made a point that Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday is the birthday of every single Jew till Mashiach comes. So he spoke a whole idea about birthday, and he spoke a lot about the theme of Mazel, if you're interested in reading about it. But be that as it may, controversies notwithstanding, number one, the source that birthdays in Indian and Torah is like a Gemara Yerushalmi, and number two, it's linked to the idea of a predominant Mazel. Says the Rebbe, therefore we're going to use the Rebbetzin's birthday for the predominance of Mazel. Now just an interesting little piece of history. The Rebbetzin was not born in Lubavitch. I think she was born in Babanovich. I could be wrong, but it's a shtetl near Lubavitch. The Rebbetzin Medina, the Rebbetzin mother, was obviously pregnant, and she was away where it was quiet, and the Rebbetzin was born there. And the Rebbe Rashab got word that the Rebbetzin was born, and there's beautiful telegrams back and forth which are published, Mazel Tov, and the Rebbe Rashab writes to the Frierdiker Rebbe, if you have not yet named her, name her Chaya Mushka. If you have yet given her a name, name her Chaya Mushka, that it's a Machtzedek to Rebbetzin. And Bechlal, the Rabbeim don't mix into name giving. Although I guess in Mishpachas, the Rebbe used to always tell people that parents have to give a name because it's a nevuah. The Rizal says when parents give a name, it's a nevuah. But the Rebbe Rashab told the Frierdiker Rebbe to give her the name Chaya Mushka, and that's her name, Lerech Yom V'Shanim Tevis. And in this new volume of Igris, which is so sweet, that I've been talking about all winter, the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe gives the Rebbe's Nebracha every year on her birthday. They're beautiful letters. And on the Rebbe's birthday, their birthdays are 16 days apart, 15 days apart. And the Rebbe, the birthdays are always so warm. The Glickliche Tag was Dubas Geworen, you have to read them inside. It's impossible to duplicate the warmth and the fatherly love that the Frierdiker Rebbe had for his daughters. It's beautiful. So take a look in the Rebbe, in that book of Igris, on the birthday letters to the Rebbe and to the Rebbe. I'm sorry. I don't know. But it was not a Yom Makri, obviously. It was not one day or Thursday or Shabbos. Let us preface. That first of all, Shakol Inyan, that everything, the Ish Prati be Yisrael, that happens to an individual Jew, Negeh L'Kol Yisrael, matters to all the Jewish people. Well, the Rebbe used to constantly apologize, why am I talking about something personal? As if the Rebbe's life is personal. The Rebbe passed away, he lost his wife, it's our problem. You better believe it's our problem. But the Rebbe says, even if it would be a Yochid, every Yochid is a Rabbim. It touches the whole world. The famous Gemara says, each person has to say, the world was created for me. Says the Rebbe, however, even if this were not the case, the Rebbe's birthday is no regular day. Says the Rebbe, the Rebbe's birth is extraordinary because it's Chaf Hei Adar. What happened in Chaf Hei Adar? Does anybody know? The Eibishter created the world. L'dat Rabbi Yeshua holds B'Nisan Nivra Eilam, the world was created in Nisan. Haina Shabiyat Adam Arisha. Adam Arisha was created Yom Shishi de B'Nisan Eilam, the 6th day of creation. Haisa Be'echad Nisan was the first of Nisan. Just like according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkinef, who says the world was created in Tishrei, that means that Adam Arisha was created out of Tishrei, and the world was created Chaf Hei Elul. According to Rabbi Yeshua, the world was created in this, and that means the first day of creation was Chaf Hayadeh. It's the first day of creation. That it says in Chazal that on the first day Hashem actually made everything. Kol told us everything came into being on that first day. It was only that everything was made on Sunday, but then it was put into its orbit, it was put into its place, it was put into its function on the appropriate day of the creation. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. But in fact, Sunday, Hashem made everything. The Ramban writes, Yesh Mayayin happened only once. Yesh Mayayin was on Sunday. Therefore, according to Rabbi Yeshua, that event of creation, Hu Chaf Hei Adar, the 25th day of Adar. V'nimtza, consequently, Shachaf Hei Adar, that the 25th of Adar is not only the Rebbetzins' birthday and my brother-in-law's birthday, but Tuyei Moledes, the Chal Abriya Kula. It's the birthday of the whole world. Shamayim v'aretz, the heaven, the earth, v'chol tzvam, and all their hosts. Keil Shamayim V'aretz Ruchnim, it's called the spiritual heavens. In other words, called Seder Ashtasha. So the Rebbe's birthday becomes very significant. Now, girls, we don't honor that, right? Chafayad is not a big deal. Chafayad is. We pass them like Rebbe Eliezer ben Horkins. Now, just short, the Maimonides Hasidus. There's a whole series of machlokes in Rebbe Eliezer and Rebbe Yeshua, right? In Masechet Rosh Hashanah. Argue about a bunch of stuff. When the world was created, when Mashiach is going to come, when the others were born, when Yosef HaTzadik was born, and they have a constancy. Rebbe Eliezer says all the big deals happened in Tishrei, and Rebbe Yeshua says all the big deals happened in Nisan. And there are two questions. Number one, why do they argue? And number two, if they're arguing about facts, doesn't that mean that somebody is wrong? I'm sorry. Right. And in Torah we say, Eilu v'Eil David Elohim Chaim, how could they both be right? So there's a lot of Maimonides Hasidus to talk about this. And basically they say, now Rebbe Eliezer ben Horkins, Rebbe Shua ben Chananya, we're best friends. Talmidim of Rebbe Yochanan ben Zakkai, they were the co-Rebbes of their generation. Rebbe Yochanan ben Zakkai passed away, they took over, right? Who was their Talmud, their most famous Talmud? Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva learned Torah from Rebbe Eliezer ben Horkins and Rebbe Shua ben Chananya. They were the Gedolei Yisrael of their generation. And you could not have found two people who were more different in every imaginable way. What do we know about Rebbe Shua ben Chananya? What does it say in the Mishnah about Rebbe Shua ben Chananya? Ashtei Yeladete. He was a Tana because his mother was a Tzadikis. As an infant, she would take his bassinet to the Beis Medrash. He should be in an environment of Torah. She used to make a hole in the ceiling of his room and put schach on top that he should sleep in a sukkah and sukkahs. Rebbe Shua ben Chananya was Kodesh Merechem Ameleda. He was sacred from birth. His mother was a Rebbe, it's not Tzadikis, and she was Mesa never that her son should be a Tana, and he was. What about Rebbe Eliezer ben Horkins? His father was a multi-millionaire who thought that if he pays the Chachamim for their learning, he's better than them. There's a whole medrash called Pirkei Rebbe Eliezer. Rebbe Eliezer ben Horkins records his own story. You know the story, right? He ran away from home, and he had to hide. It says in the medrash that he was starving. And the reason they discovered he was starving was because his breath smelled. And of course, the end of the story, his father came to disown him, right? Everybody knows the story, and then the guy told him to speak Divrei Torah, and he got up and he spoke Divrei Torah, and he asked him, who is this Tadis? He says, his name is Eliezer ben Horkins. So Eliezer ben Horkins, Rebbe Shua ben Chananya represented the epitome of Tzaddik and Baal Tshuva. And they were the coldness, can you imagine that together? They were best friends, very different people. So when they talk about the important events in the world, it reflects their personality. Rebbe Eliezer, as a Baal Tshuva, says, what is the world about? Tshuva. When is the Tshuva season? Tishrei. Elul Tishrei. Rabbi Yeshua was a tzaddik, says, what is the world about? Tzidkis. What is the tzaddik season? Nisan. And that's why they argue about when the world was created. They argue when Mashiach is going to come. They both agree B'Nisan Nigalu. But Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya says B'Nisan Nasidim Ligo. Mashiach is going to come in Nisan. And Rebbe Eliezer ben Horkins says B'Tishrei Nasidim Ligo. For the same reason. It's a Mashiach as a result of Tshuva, as the Gemara says. And the same is true about when the Avos were born. Rabbi Eliezer says they were born in Tishrei because the Avos are about Tshuva. Rabbi Yeshua says they were born in Nisan because the Avos are about Tzaddik. Now who's right? But one is right physically and the other one is right spiritually. So we agree with Rabbi Eliezer about creation. The world was created in Tishrei. But we say that 6 months before the Eibishter created the world, he thought about it. So in Machshava, Rabbi Yeshua is right, and in Dibur, Rabbi Eliezer is right. And the same is true about all of those arguments when you get to Mashiach. By Mashiach, I think we agree with Rabbi Yeshua, but we say that Mashiach is going to come in Nisan, because it's going to be from a revelation of the Eibishter, which is beyond us, but we will also have deserved it through our tshuva, that kind of thing. So look inside. Meaning the next paragraph, it's well known. And in footnote 8, the Rebbe gives you references. Al Yeseda before B'Teisvis, based on the Shitas HaTeisvis, B'Tivach Beis HaDeis. We don't say one is right and one is wrong, we say they're both right. Based on the principle of Eilu ve'Eilu Divei Elokim Chayim, these and these are the word of the living God. No one is right and no one is wrong. Shebenissen Olav Machshava Livrei V'Loi Nivra. Hashem thought about creating and didn't create. In other words, the Eibishter's thought was the world of tzaddikim, but he didn't make that world. Ad Tishrei, because he wanted it to be a world of Baalei Tshuva. Shal Pizeh, consequently, Yesh Iloi be'Eifen Abriya be'Nissen Chafei Yada. There's an advantage to the creation associated with Chaf HaYodeh, because thought is higher than speech. L'gabi Eifen Abriya b'Tishrei, Chaf HaElul, in comparison to the creation in Tishrei, which is Chaf HaElul, which is Ha'ilu de Machshava l'gabi Ma'is. How thought is higher than deed. Turn the page. Sif Beis, Ubenegiyah Lepeh. So the Rebbe says that Rebbetzon's birthday is very important, and it's especially important because it's such a special day. Ubenegiyah Lepeh, and therefore practically. Ba'a ha'atzah, says the Rebbe, I'm giving a proposal. Lahoisif minig tov, to add a new minig, parenthesis, v'yesh laima la'reitem, if you're looking for a reason, l'schus ilu nishmas. In other words, you don't want to listen to me, do me a favor for the schus of the Rebbetzon, ilu nishmas the Rebbetzon, v'kesher l'eifin ha'hag, how we should all behave on birthdays. And the Rebbe says, this is not a new idea to make a birthday. By Chasidim. By Misnagdim, by Eilu Misha, birthday is nothing. They say, Yem Meledis, it's next to Pare. Kveit Yedushas Meri V'cham Yad Mor Pirsam L'Rabim, the Friedrich Rebbe announced publicly, they say that Ha'anoga the Yem Meledis, about the customs of a birthday. Parenthesis. Shebededes Shalifnes and earlier generations, Haya Yadua Li'achide is Gula Bolvada was known only to special individuals. This Sichas in the Friedrich Rebbe, where he tells stories about his father, the Rebbe Rashab's birthday. The Rebbe Rashab's birthday is Chof Cheshvan. Chof Mar Cheshvan. So sometimes Chof Cheshvan is Shabbos. If it's Shabbos, the Rebbe Rashab said a maimer to everybody. If it wasn't Shabbos, he said a maimer to the Friedrich Rebbe in private. But it was so secretive that they would sneak their big day Shabbos into the Rebbe Rashab's office. And the Friedrich Rebbe says, my father's office was a room within a room. There was an outer room that opened up into an inner room. And they would lock both doors, go into the inner room. They would put on Big Day Shabbos, and the Rebbe Rashab would say, Amayim Etzem Friedrich Rebbe. Every single year, the Rebbe Rashab, when it was not Shabbos, the Friedrich Rebbe would come into him and he would say Amayim. Nobody knew about it. And he told his son that he's not allowed to reveal it until a specific time. The last birthday of the Rebbe Rashab, the Chaim Chayosei Baal Moedei, before the physical Estalkus, was Chof Cheshvan Tafresh Pei, 1990. So he said a maimer to the Friedrich Rebbe, and then what happened? This isn't Hayem Yom, who remembers? He gave him a bracha. The du soll sagen Chassidus of dein Yom Holedus. You should also say Chassidus on your birthday. So the Friedrich Rebbe added, Aber es soll sein bechesed u'berachman, on the condition that it should be bechesed u'berachman, with kindness and compassion. Now, what does this mean? A couple of little details. By the Friedrich Rebbe's bris, who was the Sandik of the Friedrich Rebbe? The Rebbe Marash, his grandfather, who gave him a name. When they did the bris, the Friedrich Rebbe cried. It was a baby, cried. So the Rebbe Marash said to the Friedrich Rebbe, "Was weinst du? Als du wirst auswachsen, wirst du sein ein Rebbe. Wirst du sagen, Chassidus besoffen, Bruder. Why are you crying? You're going to grow up, you're going to be a Rebbe, and you speak Chassidus with a clear voice." Now it's 40 years later. It's the last birthday of his father in this world. So I'm giving you a bracha that you should say Chassidus on your birthday, which meant he should say Chassidus in public on his birthday. So the Friedrich Rebbe stipulates B'chesed B'rachman. But B'chesed B'rachman means a lot of things. I just want you to know that when the Rebbe became Rebbe in the first Fabrengen, Yud Shvat Tav Shirav, the Rebbe also said that the condition of the Rabbis is B'chesed B'rachman. You don't know what it means, so I'm going to tell you. Chesed B'rachman means that the Rabbeim should only see Chesed B'rachman in their Chassidim. It doesn't mean that the Eight should give them Chesed B'rachman. It means that they should only see the good of their Chassidim and not the bad of their Chassidim. And thank God, the Friedrich Rebbe stipulated it's going to be B'chesed B'rachman, and the Rebbe also stipulated B'chesed B'rachman. So the Friedrich Rebbe concludes, Hat es gedoyet 7 years, it took 7 years. But the Rebbe became Rebbe, he didn't say on his birthday Chassidus. 7 years later was Yud Beis Tammuz. Yud Beis Tammuz was the Friedrich Rebbe's birthday. And that's when it came out of the closet. Of course, the Friedrich Rebbe said Chassidus Yud Beis Tammuz because it was the Chag HaGeula, but he also linked it to his Yom Holedus. And from that point on, people knew that it's the Rebbe's birthday, and that there's an inyan in a birthday. Now, I grew up before Chaf HaYodeh Tavshim Ches, and I knew about a birthday. And a birthday you're supposed to chazar a maimer, and a birthday you're supposed to give extra tzedakah. Before the birthday Shabbos, you're supposed to get an aliyah. You're supposed to make a hachlata teva to increase in a minig teva, and so forth. And there's also in Sefer HaMenhagim that you're supposed to learn every day Chodesh. This is one of those Menhagim. I don't know any Lubavitcher who does it. Every day Chodesh you're supposed to learn 1 or 2 or 3 kapitlach from your kapitel, so that over the course of 12 months, you'll finish your whole kapitel. Does anybody even know that? It says in Sefer HaMinhagim. So the minhagim, you're allowed to go back. My father told me, he went into Yechidus to the Rebbe. The Rebbe always used to ask him, if it was before the birthday, did you get an aliyah, did you give tzedakah? And if it was Shabbos, the Rebbe would say to give on Friday before Shachar, before Mincha. In other words, when the Rebbe said Chaf Hey Yad, the Tashmim Ches was not new. It was a renewal. Because the Frierdiker Rebbe had already revealed it. The Frierdiker Rebbe had revealed that the Baal Shem Tov had celebrated his birthday, and the Baal Shem Tov used to say a kapitel Tilim according to his years. Which means to say that if you're 14, being 14 actually means that you're in your 15th year, because 14 years old means you've completed 14, now you're counting your 15th year, you should take kapitel Tezvav. If you're 15, you should take kapitel Tezayin. If you're 16, you should take kapitel Yud Zayin. If you're 17, you should take kapitel Yud Ches, and so forth.
When did they start this?
When did it become public? It's in the back of the Tilim. The Frierdiker Rebbe writes about it in his letters. The Frierdiker Rebbe writes about it in his letters. So sometimes during the Frierdiker Rebbe's Messias, it became public.
Birthdays used to mean something. All his frontline soldiers were birthday ones.
Where is this written?
I don't know, but I heard it.
There's a medrash about Amalek. David HaMelech's soldiers were birthday boys. This I never heard of. I don't know about Amalek did that too. The Rebbe in the Sicha of Zayin Oder mentions Amalek. I figured that if David HaMelech's soldiers would have been birthday boys, the Rebbe would have preferred that medrash to the Amalek medrash. When the Rebbe wants to bring a point out of birthdays, he quotes Amalek. You have a source. When Amalek fought with the Yidden, so he chose people whose birthday it was, because he knew that their mazel is dominant, so they're not going to be killed. Huh?
Who chose?
Amalek. About Peshalach, when Amalek fought with the Jews, it says in Medrash they chose people whose birthday it was.
From their people?
Yeah, because they're not going to die on that day, Mazla gave it, whatever. That's why it says Vayachalesh. Yeshua didn't kill him, he just weakened them. You wanted to say something?
Me?
Yes.
No, I'm just raising my hand that I do the island of
Oh, good for you. You were well raised. Says the Rebbe, let's read it inside.
You did it, so I said I do.
Good. But you were the only one. Kvei Kedushas Merachami Admor, the Frierdiker Rebbe, Pirsem LeRabim, publicized, they say that another day, that's how one must behave on a birthday. Shebedeilu Shalifni Rebbe, before the Frierdiker Rebbe, Hayayadua, the Yechidus Gulavad was only known to special people. And what does it say in the Rebbe's Yithir Aleph Nissen? In Hayayim Yamir Aleph Nissen. La'ala is Echrei Nesav, to bring up your memories, Uliz Boinimem, to think about them. Things in your life that need to be corrected and to be returned to Yoshua v'Yisak, that we should fix them. One of the greatest stories. President Gerald Ford, who was president only for 2 years, called the Rebbe on his birthday to wish him a happy birthday. The President of the United States. On the Rebbe's birthday. And the Rebbe told the secretaries to tell him that on a birthday a person is supposed to be alone and to think about his own growth, and the Rebbe doesn't have time to talk on the phone. And the Rebbe did not come to the telephone to talk to the President of the United States on his birthday.
Wow.
Now we know the story because President Ford, after he was president, once spoke at a Lubavitcher dinner. And he repeated the story. And he said, that's a real man. In other words, what kind of political points was the Rebbe going to score? That was Pasha de Emes. The Rebbe wouldn't come to the phone, talk to the President of the United States on his birthday. Why? Because on the birthday, there's also a custom to give extra tzedakah both before Shachar and before Mincha. When the birthday is Shabbos and Yom Tov Neis to B'Yem shall have fun if you do the day before. In addition, V'shir Nois of extra learning, B'limat Torah, Nigla, and Chasidus. And like I said to you, on the back page of your stack, page 7, the Rebbe has 10 minhagim, you could learn them on your own. And the Rebbe continues, and in conjunction with this, it's most appropriate to disseminate further. In other words, though it's an old custom, to make it more, this custom in Kol Bnei Yisrael amongst all the Jewish people. That's on a person's birthday, Yesifu B'Teira, Tefillah, or Tzedakah. Extra learning, extra davening, extra Tzedakah. Gimel ha'amudim shalayim ha'olam oimed, the three pillars on which the whole world stands, of course, hachel ma'olam katan zeh ha'adam, beginning with the miniature world, which is a person. We should take good resolutions during the upcoming year. We should add in matters of Torah and mitzvahs. And now the Rebbe says in other words, everything I just said, enacted. And now the Rebbe is saying two more chidush. Number one, Aleph, it's most appropriate that each one should make on his birthday his father's simcha fabrengen of joy with your family, with your friends, and of course with that fabrengen you have to make hachlatas tevis, and it should all be done with great joy. So the Rebbe's first chiddush is that in addition to all the things that were known from before, you should make a fabrengen. And of course the story goes that a woman wrote to the Rebbe that the boys are not learning because all they're doing is having birthday parties. Twice a week is a birthday party. And the Rebbe's answer was very intriguing. The Rebbe answered her that you should do research if in Lubavitch, Lubavitch, they fabrengen less often or more often. That was the Rebbe's answer. Now you decide what it means. Next paragraph, Beis. That this whole business of a birthday, and including the fabrengen, is shayach to every man and woman, hein anoshim, men and women, v'gam taf. And even children, the ktanim, little babies, through their parents, and certainly when they're old enough, since a birthday is a holy day, it should be utilized with their friends and their family to gather together, besimcha, and use it for avodas Hashem. Now, that doesn't mean that a birthday party has to be, a celebration of all the fancy narishkeit and the paraphernalia that goes along with a birthday, the streamers and the napkins, the plates and the hats and the whole situation, and those little, what are those things called? No, the blowers have a name. They're not called blowers. They have a better name. Whatever it is. But the Rebbe doesn't mind. The ikir is there should be simcha. That's what a fabrengen is. First and foremost, simcha and Ahavas Yisrael. So this is some of the information about birthdays. There's so much more. In the next Sicha, the Rebbe makes 3 points about why you should celebrate a birthday. Number one, it's a happy day that you couldn't celebrate. Because when you were born, you were not old enough to celebrate it, so you spend your whole life rejoicing in the celebration that you were not able to celebrate. Number two, a yid has a cheskas kashrus. What that means? Every Jew will certainly do his purpose. So therefore, you could celebrate your birthday even though it's not yet known whether you're going to be a tzaddik or a rasha, because for sure you'll be a tzaddik, so on your birthday you can always celebrate all the Yiddishkeit that you're going to do during your lifetime. And number three, if you're after bar and bas mitzvah, you're making a yom tov, because it was on this day that you become a mitzvah v'eser. You're commanded to do the Eibishter's mitzvahs and you're doing them as a tzivah. That's the spirit of the Sicha of Achad Shal Pesach. You have to learn it on your own, and you should have a Chag Kosher v'Sameach. And the Eibishter should help that Mashiach should come this year, because the world is rocking at its base. It's the only Geula Teva Nidav.